All right. Hello, everyone. My name's Lucy, and I believe we're ready to get started. I'm so sorry about the delay we've had in the technical issues there getting the link working, but really happy to have everyone who successfully made it through to have you here for today's webinar. Really, once again, just apologise for the inconvenience. I'm really thankful for your patience. So welcome to today's Biz Booster series, tuning up your customer handling skills. As I mentioned, my name, excuse me, is Lucy Finch, and I'm part of the team at Treaty Business Consulting. I'm one of the senior business consultants there in the Northern Territory, and we deliver the ASBAS program in the Northern Territory in partnership with Business Station, who take the lead for the WA and Queensland states as well with RDA. So as I mentioned, I'm a business consultant, but I also have quite an extensive background in hotels and hospitality, which is where a lot of my experience with handling customers and namely customer complaints has come from. So whilst I was working at the Western Sydney Hotel, I was responsible for responding to all social media and handling all the complaints that came through the General Manager's office. So a lot of opportunity there to deal with customers of all different types, and looking forward to share some of the insights of that with you today. So through today's webinar, we're going to cover a few topics. So here we've got just an overview of things we're going to go through today. So a bit about what complaints are, where they come from, why they're actually a good thing, how we can respond to them, and how to learn from them as well. So first up, often we find that complaints are scary. We hate complaints. Nobody likes dealing with complaints. I might a little bit. But generally, complaints annoy us. We don't want to deal with them. We want to ignore them, sweep them under the rug. And it can be a challenging thing for a lot of people. It puts us outside of our comfort zone. So complaints can be scary. There can be fear holding us back from dealing with them, because in our mind, we're imagining all of these horrible things that the customer is going to say and make us feel, and how horrible it's going to go. And if we ignore it, it might just go away. We could be frustrated because actually we've dealt with this before, or we don't have time for this. The customer actually doesn't know what they're talking about. All these different reasons why complaints can be a bit scary. And also we're too busy. Business owners are busy working in their business, on their business, don't have time to stop for this. But what I'd like to tell you today is actually we do need to make time for it. We do need to push ourselves outside of our comfort zone so that we can deal with the complaints. They are potentially annoying and taking up our time. However, without that customer, at the end of the day, we don't have a business. Doesn't matter what type of business it is. We need someone to be servicing, whether we're servicing the direct public or another business, if it's business to business. Without customers, we don't have a business. So complaints, I actually see them as an opportunity. They're an opportunity for us to improve. So I'm sure most people have come across the saying where a customer will tell one person about a positive experience and they'll tell every other person they know about a negative experience. And I'm sure you yourself can think of times where you've been the customer and had a negative experience, and when you've had a positive experience. So how many people have you told about the positive? How many people have you told about the negative? Have you written about it on social media? Everyone may well have had that experience too. Now, as a business owner, I feel that complaints are really important opportunities, because without that piece of information, I don't actually know there's a problem. And if I don't know there's a problem, I can't fix it. Now, often the problem is not necessarily me as the business owner, but it's the processes that I have in place, and I can fix those processes. So without that opportunity, I don't have an opportunity to improve my business. I don't have an opportunity to de-escalate the situation with that customer and potentially turn them around. So as a customer or as a person, there are 5 pillars that I often refer to that are the human truths. So as a person, we need to be understood. We want to belong. We long to feel special. We crave more control over our lives, and we dream of reaching our potential. So those apply to any aspects of our lives. As a customer, the ones that really stand out there is wanting to be understood, wanting to feel special, and wanting to have control. And if we take those away, that's often where we end up with complaints. Now, there may be an external factor that's led to the complaint. It may be the situation of the feather that broke the camel's back. That particular customer has had a very rough day had a fender bender this morning, had trouble getting their children off to school, had a fight with their partner, and then they've come into your store and the one thing they wanted is out of stock, and they've gone through all of this effort and it's that last breaking point and they snap. We don't know what's happened in their lives that brought them up to this point in time. We only know what they're telling us and we only know what we've experienced. Now, I think if we all have a bit of a reflection on how we've felt as a customer, I'm sure we can all think of times where we've had bad customer service and where we've been in that situation. I can think of experience with telecommunications providers. I can think of experiences I've had in hospitality. I can think of experience I've had in retail. And often in these situations, I've definitely felt that I wasn't understood. They didn't understand my needs, or they also didn't care about me. And I had no control. I was at their mercy. And that made me feel really uncomfortable, really upset. And I did tell people about it. And I still tell people about some of them, but we won't go into that here today. So thinking about how the customer feels, we come to empathy. So empathy is sometimes confused with sympathy. So the difference is with empathy is that we're trying our best to understand how the other person feels. With sympathy, it's more about feeling sorry for them in their situation. Empathy is about understanding their situation. So taking a moment to think, okay, how does this customer feel? How does this person, because we'll sometimes forget that we all are people at the end of the day, how do they feel? And being able to convey that we understand to someone is quite an important thing, but it can often go very wrong. Have you ever had the experience where someone says to you, I understand how you feel, and you say, actually, no, you don't. You have no idea how I feel, and the situation actually gets worse. But by saying to someone, you must be very frustrated, and then stop speaking. So you must be, and how you imagine what you think that they might be. So you must be frustrated, and then there has the opportunity for them to say, yes, I am, or no, actually, I'm more disappointed. And it can continue the conversation on a level playing field rather than escalating with the, you have no idea how I feel, from saying, I understand. So it comes back to wanting to be heard and wanting to be valued as well. So often in arguments, when someone does escalate and voices are getting louder, no one hears anything. And by feeling that you're not understanding, we don't feel valued. So when I've had experiences, poor customer service experiences, and I feel like the business I'm dealing with doesn't care about me, they don't value my business, so I'm going to take it elsewhere. So we want to make sure that we can negate these experiences for the customer, but it's always very important to remember how they feel and how other external factors completely separate to my interaction with them or my business's interaction with them can have an impact on this that are completely outside of my control. So when we have complaints, obviously we have different types of complaints: in person, over the phone, email, feedback forms, and social media, which is a space that is obviously growing and evolving. That includes reviews, TripAdvisor, Facebook reviews, and things like that. I guess each type of them can have pros and cons with how we handle them. In person is definitely my preference because we have the opportunity to speak to someone person to person. Over the phone, and especially over email and social media, we lose that human contact, and then it becomes more of a transaction. And we see examples, especially on social media, where people have that, I guess, confidence of being a bit more anonymous or a bit more reserved, that situations definitely escalate and exaggerate much more than they would in person. So I definitely have a preference myself for in-person and phone, but we can't choose which way they come in. We can, however, choose which way we respond. So in any incident where there's been a complaint, it's always my preference to speak to that person face to face, or failing that over the phone. If I get an email complaint come through or a feedback form, I will always try to speak to them. The main reason for that is, like I said before, it's a lot easier to de-escalate the situation, humanize the situation, and there's none of the misinterpretation of tone like there can be when it's written, and misunderstanding each other. Often it's a lot easier to talk through and explain situations, and it's so quick that there's no waiting for a reply or sitting there and planning out a reply. It's a natural conversation, so you can address concerns a lot quicker. In regards to timing, when to respond to a complaint be as soon as practical. Now, you may need to take an hour or so, or half a day, whatever it might be, depending on the complaint, to check some data in the system, to speak to whoever interacted with this customer, to have a look at what it was that they ordered, whatever information that you need, depending on the type of business that you have. And then as soon as practical, get in contact with that customer. So ideally, person or phone, but if that's not an option, you don't have those contact details or that ability to catch them that way, then email and written is obviously the best way to address it then. So the approach that I like to take first is letting them speak. Now, if you can think of a time where you had a complaint, then you would have been practicing, like I do in my head, exactly what I'm going to say. Even when it comes down to complaints that I have with perhaps my partner, I plan it out in my head exactly what I'm going to say. I think about it in the shower or when I'm driving, and I've got this speech all prepared, ready to go. When we're asking someone to give us their feedback and then we don't let them give their feedback, we're escalating that situation. So by letting them speak, letting them get that speech out off their chest and listening to them, we're getting off to a really good start. So we need to make sure that we are genuinely listening. We're not distracted. If you are in the office on the phone, turn the monitor of your computer off so you're not looking at emails that come in, just accidentally glance and then you've zoned out of the conversation. Turn your mobile phone over and give that person your full attention. Paraphrase back to them so that you're confirming what you know, and then use that little gem of empathy. So, oh, that must be really frustrating. That must be really upsetting, or whatever it is that you're getting from the conversation. And then when they've spoken, offering a solution. Now, we'll get to solutions a little bit later on as well, but offering a solution to them is quite important so that we can have a resolution to the case. And we'll have a little bit of a chat shortly about different options there. Now, investigating the cause of the complaint. So depending on the complaint and on the customer and the situation, you might actually need to speak to them at a later date once you've had a chance to investigate. If they've got a particular concern about a past experience that they had and you want to go back and have a look at the records, talk to some staff members, etc., that's perfectly valid. You don't need to have all the answers straight away. So make sure you explain to the customer what you're going to do and when you're going to call them back. And the most important thing there is that you contact them when you say you will. So even if you do that investigation today, but you're waiting on a third party to give you information and you don't have that yet, that's fine. Call them and say, look, I'm still getting the information. Just wanted to let you know I haven't forgotten about you and I'll be in contact with you tomorrow. So it's very important to do exactly what you say you will do so that you're not letting them down again. And then lastly, thank the customer. So without them bringing this feedback to us, whether it is a small or a large complaint, completely unaware that there is a problem. As a business owner, I'd much rather know that there is a problem so I can look at what needs to be done to address it. And I'd also like to give them the opportunity to come back and maintain being a customer of mine, whatever type of service it is that I provide. If I lose them, I potentially lose other people as well. If I can retain them, I can increase my effectiveness of my processes, and I can also retain them as a customer. So I've got that protection moving forward for my business as well. So the key points there, excuse me, is letting them speak, not cutting them off, making sure you're really listening to what it is they've got to say, even as petty as you think it might be, or if they are wrong indeed, just listen to them and see what they have to say and let them get that off their chest. Show some empathy, offer a solution, investigate if you need to, do what you say you'll do, and thank the customer for the opportunity to rectify this situation. So when it comes to a solution, so many options here. What do we do? Is the customer always looking for something? Do they want a freebie? Do we need to give them a refund? There's no right or wrong answer here. There's no prescriptive action that says if they complained about this, do this. Unfortunately, it's not that black and white. So what I like to do in this situation is just think, well, if I was the customer, what would I expect? And it's also okay to ask them. The solution also needs to match the severity of the problem. So if you think of an example of hospitality, there's an issue with their meal. My first priority there is to get them fed. A hungry customer is a much more upset customer than a fed one. So if they've had a problem with their meal, rather than go through with them the ins and outs of what is and isn't right about their interpretation of the menu, let's just get them a new meal. They believe that the steak is well done when they've asked for medium, but the chef swears black and blue that that's a medium steak. At this point in time, that doesn't matter. Let's just get them the steak that they want, get it in their belly, and then let's have a conversation with the end just to close it off and see if they're satisfied or if we need to go further. Same if we're thinking about an item that's perhaps broken or faulty, then let's replace it. Let's give them the item that they need. And then you've got the initial concern addressed, and we can look at other options there. Sometimes it might be a bit more complex than that in regards to warranty issues, usage issues, etc. But generally the solution needs to be in balance with the problem. So it may be a refund, maybe a replacement. It may be to offer a discount next time because of the inconvenience. It may very well be nothing, and just the opportunity for the customer to speak to you as the business owner is enough to alleviate their needs there. Another nice little one to keep up your sleeve is next time ask for me personally and I will look after you. So there's a level of elevation there that the customer has a connection with the business owner, feels a little bit more special, a bit more valued. They've got a little bit more control, so that they've got some faith that next time they know that if they ask for Lucy, I'll come out and look after them. And they've got that bit more confidence back in there. And they also, definitely in a hospitality sense, it's quite nice to know the maitre d' or the restaurant manager or even the head chef is going to look after you. There's a lot of customers that value that in hospitality, and no doubt that translates across to a lot of other industries as well. So in general speaking, in regards to a solution, think about what you would expect. It's definitely okay to ask them how they feel that this situation would best be resolved, and keeping in mind that we're balancing the solution with the severity of the problem. So if there was a fly in the soup, we're not going to comp the whole meal and give them a bottle of Moët and Chandon, but we certainly would be looking at replacing that meal straight away. So do I say sorry is something that comes up quite often. There's a lot of belief around if I say sorry, I'm acknowledging wrongdoing and opening myself up to legal action. And I guess in some situations that may be very true, depending on the type of complaint and the type of industry. When it comes to saying sorry, say remember we are human. We do want to act from a place of kindness, and an apology, if that's what you would expect in a situation, then apology is certainly appropriate. You may feel that I'm not sorry, I didn't do anything wrong, but perhaps the line to say, look, I'm sorry we didn't meet your expectations, I'm sorry we let you down on this occasion, are certainly ways of apologising in a more indirect manner to alleviate the customer, because sometimes what you want to hear is sorry, just that acknowledgement that there was something that did go wrong, and we're happy to move forward. So certainly a personal decision there as to how you want to go about saying sorry, and if you do. I know there are some very strong feelings in the business community about whether or not sorry is appropriate. And again, no, unfortunately, black and white answer there. It's what would you expect and what are you comfortable doing as a business owner, and how's it going to help de-escalate the situation? Now, a favourite one that we hear often is, I want to speak to the manager, and that one gets a bit of a run in the meme world as well. However, I think that's quite important. Having layers in the business give us depth to handle our customer situations. So I know in some businesses, especially self-employed, there may not be those opportunities for layers. However, in other businesses, there certainly is many different people involved. If I speak back to the example of a hotel, we had at the front counter, there'd be a guest services agent, then there'd be an assistant manager who runs the shift, a front office manager, a rooms division manager, and then a general manager. So there's very many layers involved there. Not many businesses of a smaller size have those, but you may have a customer service assistant working in retail, and then a store manager, and perhaps an assistant manager in the mix there as well. When a customer has a complaint, they want to make sure it's heard by the right person, and they often perceive that as being the manager or the owner, and don't necessarily want to listen to what someone lower down in the hierarchy has to say. And that's okay. That's just a way that a lot of people have a mentality that it's not going to be passed on. They'll just fob off my feedback. I want to go straight to the top. By having the opportunity for the customer to have those different layers, we're giving them a bit more control. We're helping them to feel valued because they are now speaking to the manager. They are now speaking to the head of this department. They are now speaking to the owner. But they're going to listen to me more than the other person will. Not because the other person did anything wrong, but just because that's their perception. It also, having these layers, gives us support to each other in the team. So it supports that person who took the initial feedback, because then the next person up the line is going to back them up and explain to the customer that, yeah, actually what they're saying, right, that is our policy. However, these are the options that I can give to you. So if the customer goes straight to the top, it doesn't give us many places to go to if we're not telling them, if we're telling them something that they don't want to hear. But when we have layers, it gives us the opportunity to go through those different tiers of the business to reinforce that message. So by asking to speak to the manager, I don't necessarily see that as a bad, scary thing. We're giving an opportunity to back up the other person in our business, and we're also giving an opportunity for the customer to feel valued and heard. All right, so I'm sensing there's probably a few people out there saying, oh, but. And sure, there are definitely buts, because as I've said a couple of times, there's no black and white rule system when it comes to customer complaints. And certainly there are times that customers are wrong. They just don't get it. And they're actually complaining about something that is completely against policy or doesn't exist, or it is a completely irrational complaint. They're gone a bit off the ledge and they're not listening to anything we're saying. Or they threaten legal action. I'm going to fair trading. I'm going to consumer affairs. Or they just won't accept the resolution and the conversation's going around and round in circles. All right, so what do we do here? How do we stop banging our heads against the wall, and how do we get a resolution? So if they're wrong, which quite possibly they are, we need to explain to them what it is that they're missing in the process, but balancing that without making them feel stupid, which can be a bit of a delicate balance. So if we go back to the example before about the steak and the way that it's cooked, the customer's insistent that it's cooked wrong and the chef's insistent that it's cooked right. At the end of the day, we just need to get that customer fed. So if the chef needs to send out a differently cooked steak, then we've got a resolution there. And we can also give the customer an opportunity there to learn a bit more about it. So the chef can come out to the restaurant, which the chefs that I've worked with have always been happy to do that, and have a chat to them so that next time they understand which way they want to order it. So it's certainly wanting to make sure it's not a condescending situation, but more of an educational. So if they are wrong, pick your battles. If you want to go on through the detail, explain to them, or sometimes it's better just to accept it and no need to enter into that conversation. So if they're being irrational, that can be a bit scary as well. You don't know which way to go, how we're going to end this. They're just going around in circles. So it comes back to what we were saying before about being present to what they're saying. So paying attention, giving them your full attention, and really listening, actively listening and repeating back to them and clarifying points that you don't quite understand. Also being genuine, authentic when you're talking to them. So not having the, yep, but actually engaging with them, listening to them, asking questions to learn a bit more will help, hopefully, to de-escalate the situation so you can understand a bit more from where they're coming from. In regards to, moved my mouse ahead. In regards to people threatening legal action, look, that's often an empty threat, depending on the situation, whether or not that you feel that they have a genuine claim to what it is. If you do feel that there's something genuine there, then I'd suggest seeking legal advice for yourself. If it is just an empty threat that they've made, then there's they've got every right to pursue that and get their own advice. But I wouldn't be too frightened off by that. But if you are, then to seek legal advice so you know how to proceed there. And if they won't accept the resolution that you've offered, that's okay. Sometimes they do want the bottle of Molten Chandon that's way out of reach, and you can politely decline and let them know that you thank them for their feedback and unable to do that at this stage. And if there's anything else you can do for them, please let you know. If they come back to the service, let you know, and you can look after them personally next time. So trying to close down the situation there. sometimes in these situations when things are a bit hectic and crazy, the best way that I've found to make sure that I'm handling it the best I can is to get a bit of peer advice, another manager, another business owner, and say, hey, this is what the customer's doing, saying, this is what I'm doing and saying, not really getting anywhere. What am I missing? Because if we're sometimes a bit too close to it, we are missing something. Or if we're a bit emotional about it too, it can be a bit hard to be objective. So by getting a bit of peer advice off someone I trust, and they may be in a different industry, they may be my partner, they may be someone I've worked with previously, or might be very well here part of my team, then it helps to get a bit of clarity and go, all right, well, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Or if it is someone in your team, okay, well, I'll have a chat to them too, and it brings in that layers as well. Now, social media is the area of complaints that have gotten a bit evolved over the last 5 to 10 years, and I guess it's evolving every week, really. One thing I would say about people threatening social media is don't be afraid. Don't let them hold you to ransom that they're going to badmouth you all over social media. They either will or they won't. And if they do, you do have ways to turn reviews off on Facebook if you want to deactivate them for a short amount of time. You can raise them to Google and TripAdvisor if you feel that they're malicious. So you do have options there. But I'd say number one, that society in general is a lot more savvy now to social media reviews. And when someone is just a bit disheartened and bitter against the business and ranting, a lot of people will see through that. And a great way to be able to manage that from a business owner point of view is to reply to all reviews as a general rule, so that when someone is looking at it, they can see that you reply to everything, not just the bad ones, and they can get a bit of insight into what the business side is like. So if you have had someone that you've had in conversation with, and then they've gone to social media and badmouthed you everywhere, you can reply by saying something like, as discussed with you on the phone, we were disappointed that blah, 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 blah. And it just gives a bit of a message out there to anyone reading it that there is more to the story and the business is onto it. If this is a brand new complaint that you've heard nothing about, you can reply something like the first point there, that we're disappointed this wasn't brought to our attention during your stay. Please contact us directly. And that shows that the business is proactive, that, hey, we didn't know about this and we want to fix it. So the tone that you use when you write on social media can be quite tricky. Again, when it's just like emails and texts, it's open to interpretation. So my number one tip there is to be objective. So keep emotion out of it and just polite and objective and short and sharp. We don't want to get into rambling, long-winded replies and going into reasons, because reasons can come across as excuses. At the end of the day, most people don't care about reasons. They don't care about what happened. They just want to be heard and have that solution there. So in regards to social media, don't be afraid of it. Reply to everything. You can put it as a weekly reminder in your calendar. I'm going to check for reviews and I'm going to reply to them. If you do have negative ones that come up there that you're worried about, look at your options to have them taken down or turned off for a short amount of time and then respond to them. And I'd suggest there, with everything you respond to, just send it off to, again, peer review, someone in your team, someone in your network that you trust, to double check them, make sure that it sounds okay and it's not coming across condescending or anything like that before you pop it up. When I responded to reviews for the Western Hotel, so I responded across all social media channels weekly, and that would be anywhere to 40 to 50 a week. And I would always have them read by one of my colleagues just to make sure that they, one, didn't all sound the same and they came across genuine, but also two, that there wasn't any languaging in there that wasn't on brand. So certainly getting that advice off someone else to run their eye over it, and it's something you can do in return for them too. Now, I've talked a little bit before about emotions. So often with complaints, especially if you're the small business owner and you're the one doing most of the work in the business, and the complaints about something that you love and are so passionate and work so hard for, it'd be really hard not to take it personally. But 9 times out of 10, it's not personal. It's not you that this is the problem. It's not you that has caused this complaint to happen. You haven't gone out of your way to wake up in the morning and go, who am I going to annoy today? It's something that's happened and it's related to a process that you have. So that process is broken and it needs improvement. And this complaint is your bringing that to your attention and giving you that opportunity to fix it. So it may be a process as in a physical process that you go through to prepare an order or service a customer, provide whatever service it is you do in your business, pack their item for shipping, create their item, whatever it might be there. Or it might actually be a process that's more about communication. So the messaging that you give the customer, how you frame up to them what your business does and doesn't do might actually need improving. So if a customer's complaining because they didn't get an additional service that they're expecting, which is not something you've ever provided before, stop and have a think, well, why did they think they were going to get that? And you can ask them, why did you think that that was part of the process? I'd like to see where I've let myself down in communication there so I can fix that. And it may be that a particular thing on the website is out of date, or someone else's website who references your business is not quite accurate, or something you put in files worded a bit ambiguous and they've interpreted it differently. Whatever it might be, now that you know about it, you can actually fix it and improve it and stop this from happening again and stop customers from being sent down the wrong path again. So by not taking it personally and keeping our emotions out of the discussion, we can be more objective. We can look at how we can improve this, how it happened, how we can improve it for the future. And remember to take a breath. It can be very hard to not take these things personally sometimes, especially when someone is quite animated in their complaint placing. So take a moment, take a breath, and then carry on. In my very young days of being a manager, I think I may have even been a supervisor at the time. I was in a restaurant, understaffed as it often is, and a customer complained to me about the size of their pasta dish, that it was too small for their price. And I said, well, that's the size that the chef makes and that's the price that it is, because it was. And I got quite defensive about it. And then I walked away and I went, what happened there? That customer is still upset. I'm upset. Why am I upset? This is silly. And I took a breath and I went out and I said, I apologize. I shouldn't have talked to you that way. Not that I said anything horrible to them. I was just a bit short, I think. And I bobbed down at the table, which is something I always did in restaurants, is I bobbed down to talk to people at the table rather than standing over them. And said, I'm sorry, didn't mean to speak to you that way. Tell me a bit more about what you're expecting based on the price and what you got. And we had a chat and everything went great. But it's because I took a moment to go, this isn't about me. This doesn't affect me in the long term, whether the customer is right or wrong. I can give this feedback to the chef and he'll do what he does. I'll give this feedback to the manager and they'll do what they does in regard to pricing. But at the moment, it's about the relationship I have with this particular customer and his interpretation of the whole business, the whole resort, based on our interaction. So I need to let that go and just go and talk to him like a person. And that's what I did, and it went really well. Not every situation is going to go the same, but in that instance, and I remember that was about 15 years ago. That's something that stuck with me for a long time, is that letting it go and talking to him like a person. So as I've said a few times, feedback is a gift, the opportunity to fix the process, opportunity to grow and improve and make things better. And at the end of the day, if there's a problem, I want to know about it. I want to be able to fix it. I don't want to have customers come to my website, not be able to find how to place an order and just bounce straight away and go somewhere else. I don't want customers to be telling their friends that my business is offering a service, but they can't ever figure out how to get it. Or I don't want my customers to go and tell friends, don't go there. They don't return phone calls because I don't have a process in place to know that someone's called me and I need to call them back. Whatever it might be, if this customer has gone out of their way to give me the feedback, I need to listen to it and I need to action it. Because as we discussed very early in the piece, a lot of customers will have that feedback for us and not give it. I know me as a customer, when I've had complaints about places and I thought, oh, this place is rubbish, I haven't always given that feedback to them and I've left and never gone back. And I might have mentioned it to someone else too. So if they're willing to tell me about the problem so I have an opportunity to fix it, then I definitely want to hear about it. So top points to take away is that definitely handling complaints in person or by phone are my #1 choice, so that we can speak to people like a human being, have a great conversation. By the end of it, it may start out a little bit hairy, but by the end of it, it usually goes well, and we don't misinterpret each other over emails. Remembering that feedback is that gift, it is that opportunity to improve and grow, and it's great that we're having that brought to our attention. Solution first, so rather than going through the reasons and excuses and investigating and figuring out and blah, 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 make the customer happy. If they've got an issue with their meal, let's get some food in their belly. If they've got an issue with their product, what can we do to fix it? Doing what we say we will do. If we tell the customer we're going to call them, if we tell the customer we're going to send them something, we do. And if something changes that plan, we let them know. And remembering at the end, it's not personal. Vast majority of the time that customers have an issue with our business, it's got nothing to do with anything you've done intentionally as a person. It's a process, and we can always change processes. And that brings us to the end of the presentation. So I'd like just to open it up now. If anyone has questions or any particular scenarios you'd like to share and get feedback on, certainly happy to chat through any of those now. Jack, did you want to see if there was any questions?
Currently there are no questions, but we'll give it about 30 seconds.
Yeah, sure. And also more than happy for anyone to reach out after the webinar. My contact details, I think, are there. If not, we'll send them out around to everyone. If you've got a particular scenario that you don't want to share publicly, that you'd like to have some advice on, happy to have a bit of a chat to anyone who's interested in that too.
So Lucy, there hasn't been any more questions. I've just put your email address and the office phone number in the chat so that if anyone wants to contact you, feel free.
Great. All right, wonderful. Yeah, any questions and certainly any feedback as well. Definitely open to that too, and happy to have a chat to anyone about any scenarios that you might have, or even if they pop up later in the week as well. All right, thank you for joining Treaty Business Consulting and Business Station today, and hope to see you again soon in another webinar.